person who loves cats. I never meant to get so fat, but here I am despite what's done. So let's get into this and have some fun.
Meow meow. Hello people. Can I just say, first of all, I am having a hair crisis. Can we just appreciate for one moment how frizzy my hair is? There's a reason for this. So you might recall in a previous vlog, I said that I go to my lovely, lovely friend Gareth, who washes and blow dries my hair once a week. Well, Gareth thought it was absolutely fine to go on holiday. How dare you? In his defence, he did book me in with his colleague last week. But unfortunately, I couldn't go. I had to cancel the appointment last minute because Sooty Girl, we have two cats. Sooty Boy, Sooty Girl. I will explain all of that in a minute. But Sooty Girl was not very well. And Rich was out. And I didn't want to leave her on her own. I just didn't want to leave her alone. So I had to cancel, which means, shock, horror, I had to wash my own hair. And it's so thick, it just takes forever to dry. And because I never do it, there are reasons why I go to the hairdressers every week. Number one is because I'm crap at doing it myself. But also because I do get a lot of shoulder pain. There are physical reasons. So I don't have those kind of like everyday handy gadgets like hair dryers. I have got hair brushes. I do brush my hair every day, at least once. But no, I don't have a hair dryer. So, and I can't do the whole, hold the dryer with brush. I can't do this for the amount of time it takes to blow dry my hair. Goodness knows how Gareth does it, because it's such hard work. But it really does make my shoulders really inflamed. So it's a thing. And I don't have, sorry, just knocking things over on my desk. I don't have hair straighteners anymore. So contingency plan is that I had to let my hair air dry. Hence, look at it. My lovely friend, my lovely, lovely friend is coming up later today and lending me her hair straighteners. And I'm back in the salon on Wednesday anyway. So today's Monday, back in the salon on Wednesday. So I'll get it all fixed then anyway. So just having a coffee. Rich is out, so I thought I would take this opportunity to record another little vlog. I really want to fill you in on the backstory about the medication. When I said that I couldn't take stronger medication, it is quite a long story because it's quite involved. I'll do a brief version of it now, but I was going to do a little playlist of videos where I can go like more into detail, and if you want to watch it you can, and if it's not something you want to watch then that's absolutely fine. So basically from my 20s, at some point in my 20s, and yes I can remember that far back but only just, I started using drugs, and it started off just as a kind of like a fun thing. I was a student and I was a bit of a rebel when I was at school. Do you remember the goths in the 1980s? I was one of those goths. But yeah, it started off as just, everyone did it. So it was just smoking a bit. We didn't smoke. This is the weird thing. It wasn't. It was the that we used to smoke. Anyway, everyone was doing it, so it was fine. And well, clearly wasn't fine, but I did start suffering, or I suffered for a long time from depression. I actually think, had I been a teenager now, rather than the toddler that I am, had I been a teenager now, I would have probably been diagnosed with something maybe like bipolar, or I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on that, but I did suffer greatly from really, really massive mood swings. I mean, not just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm a bit happy, I'm a bit sad. It was majorly almost happy, manically happy, and then really sinking into the depths of despair. I know that I used to question a lot the kind of why am I here, and what's the point and stuff like that, you know. It's hard to kind of like think back on it sometimes because it's hard to actually pinpoint what I thought and what was going on, because everything just seems like very blurred. I just know I wasn't happy. I'd self-harmed as a teenager, never really understood why I did that, but you know, it did happen. I had been on various medications from the doctors and mood, I guess they were, I don't even remember what they were, maybe like mood stabilizers or mood lifters or whatever they were. And nothing was working. Nothing made me feel any better. Didn't make me feel any different whatsoever. I think the most that I probably got from those medications were the side effects. And I didn't get any benefit from them at all. I mean, maybe I was kind of looking to them to give some sort of magic cure, I don't know. But I do distinctly recall an appointment with my GP at the time. Not the same GP I have now. But my GP at the time, when I went to see him and I said, right, I've taken these tablets, you know, I've been on them for however many weeks it was he suggested, and I don't feel any better. I don't feel any different. Can you prescribe me something stronger? And he basically said, no, I can't. You know, this is the best I can do. And I would add that throughout my teenage years, I'd had the psychologists, social workers, the child psychologists. I'd been for counselling, I'd been for therapy, I'd done the whole lot. Well, maybe not the whole lot, I was a bit flippant, but you know, you get what I'm saying. In my young, arrogant way, I said words to the effect of, if you can't give me something, then I will go and buy something that will make me feel better. And I remember that he leaned forward and he said, then you will be acting against my strongest advice. And I just kind of looked at her and went, right, okay. And I left. And I went to a friend of mine who I knew used illicit drugs. And I asked him to go and buy me some, why am I rocking? I asked him to go and buy me some. Am I allowed to say that word? He didn't want to. I will give him that. But I was very persuasive. And so he did. And when he came back with it, I smoked it, and I remember feeling like I'd been wrapped up in a big, soft, fluffy duvet. Everything, suddenly, life, everything inside my head, everything going on around me, everything was okay. You know, when you're younger, did you ever do this when you were a child and you go under the bedclothes with a torch and a book? And if you were me, a packet of custard creams, and you used to feel so safe because it was like your little fort. Well, that's how it made me feel. That's how it made me feel. And I slept so well that night. And I remember waking up in the morning thinking, oh my God, I've found what works for me. I've found something that's going to work. This makes me feel great. Yeah, I know it's illegal, but you know, it works. So I carried on smoking it. For somebody who did a degree and is supposed to be mildly intelligent, it really never occurred to me that I would become addicted to it. And I know that sounds absolutely mental now to say that, but it really didn't. And it was about maybe 4 months or so later, I woke up one morning, didn't have any in the house, and had these kind of flu symptoms and felt really rubbish. I mean, really awful. Again, I have a clear memory of having a thought that morning of like, oh crap, I think I might be addicted. And I was like, oh well, carry on. So I did carry on, and I carried on for a long, long time. And that drug remained that particular drug remained as a staple throughout. But I also got into another drug So the one that was the staple, I don't want to mention the names of the drugs, and I know it can be triggering for some people, and I also know that there's a lot of stigma attached to them. But the one that I chose, the staple, acts more as a kind of, the one that I chose to use later on acts more as a, okay. So if the first one was not of such good quality and you weren't getting great from it, all you need to do is go and buy some of the second one to get a, and then the other one works much better. Crazy. I became my own pharmacist. This went on for a long time, way through my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, not all the way through my 40s. I never used to drink a lot. I wasn't a big drinker, but I'm sure that some of you, maybe all of you, will be familiar with the term a functioning alcoholic. Well, for a long time, I was a functioning addict, and I had my work life, and I had my addict life, and I had my family life, and they all stayed separate. My dad, God rest him, because I think he did see a lot of what was going on, and he kept that to himself, I'm sure. But towards the end of my time in what we term as active addiction, those worlds, the family, the work, the addiction, they started caving in on each other. Now, I know that I was doing a lot of work at the time with a very good friend of mine, whose name I won't mention until I've checked with him. He knew what was going on. Him and his wife knew. And I think they probably had many discussions between themselves about what they could do to help, and could they help. I guess it did impact my work. It probably did, more than I realised. But I thought I was keeping it pretty separate. That's the point. Towards the end of that time, so we're moving forward now to about Christmas time 2011. And how old was I then? 42. So Christmas time, I wasn't married at that point. I've never had any children, only my cats. And I will say that Sooty and Sweet got me through many a dark night. That was the two cats. So yeah, Christmas time 2011. And I went over to Mum and Dad's on Christmas Day, as I usually did. And we had Christmas dinner. Now, I don't remember what this was all about. I need coffee. I don't remember what this was all about, but I know we had an argument. And that was not unusual, because I was a very volatile kind of person. So we had this argument, and in my usual way of dealing with things, I decided to get up and walk out. And I just remember my mum being in tears, because Christmas was quite special to my mum. So my mum was in tears, my dad was upset, I was upset, and I jumped in a taxi and I came home. And I sat on my bed and I pulled out every bit of drugs that I had here, and I had them laid out on my bed. And I sat there, and I remember wishing, I don't even know if I should say this on here, trigger warning, guys. Sorry if this is too much information, but I remember wishing that I injected drugs rather than just smoking them. Because if I had have done, I would have taken that whole lot and I would have just put it in one injection and gone to sleep and probably not woken up. And I remember sitting there. It's a really weird thing to try and explain to you, because it's not like I was wanting to end things. It's not like I was wanting to end things. I was just tired. I was just tired of it all. I was really sick and fed up of feeling the way I felt, and just, of everything being so messy. It's really hard to explain. And I do remember sitting there without any, poor me, and I wasn't crying at this point anymore. But I do remember clearly, sitting there and thinking, oh well, at least I won't have to go through this again next Christmas. Because I knew, I I knew without any doubt in my mind whatsoever that I would not make it another year. I knew that I wouldn't. I knew that it would finish me off. So, so did I instantly change on the 26th of December? No. So I carried on and carried on and carried on, and we went into 2012. And now we get to the exciting part of the story, what I think is the exciting part. And I know that there are going to be bits of this part of the story where some of you are going to go, yeah, all right. Please just believe me that what I'm going to tell you happened did happen. And this is how it happened. It hasn't been embellished or remembered wrongly. I guarantee you this is what happened. So it's August 2012 and I'm sat in my little flat where I live now, sat in my little flat on the computer, probably watching cat videos. So I was, just whiling away some time. You see, Sooty heard, hello, darling. Yes, you're a good girl. Do you want to say hello to everyone? No. I had, as I guess we all do, about, 4,500 tabs open on my browser. I've got Facebook, I've got email, I've got YouTube, whatever else I was watching. And there was a tab that I didn't recognise and it said Uchna. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And so I clicked on it and it was the UK page for Narcotics Anonymous. Now I can promise you that I never opened that tab. I can promise you that I was not searching for Narcotics Anonymous. It hadn't entered my head. And I should also say that at this point, I had been to Bristol Specialist in Drug and Alcohol Service and Bristol Drugs Project. I'd been put onto a medication called Subutex, which is supposed to help you come off of the illicit substance that I was on. Yes, that's right, Sooty. Sooty, you're a good girl. I can't go and get her because she's a very, very old lady. She's nearly 25. She is very vocal. She is fine, I assure you. But I can't move her around and stuff because it makes her distressed. So if you're good, then I'll show you her on another video. But you might get to meet Sooty Boy. Yes, you will get to meet everyone, Sooty. Can you be quiet now, darling, so I can finish my story time? There's a good girl. Mummy loves you. Right. So I was on Subutex, which is a medication to try and help you come off this illicit substance. The idea is you take a little bit like methadone, but it comes in a tablet form that you pop under your tongue rather than a liquid form. So I'd been on that for about 8 years and I started off on a really, really tiny dose and I used to take it every other day. I think it was 2 milligrams every other day, something like that. Don't quote me on those figures. And I ended up at this point, August 2012, I was on 32 milligrams daily and I was still using on top of it. So it didn't help me. And if it's helped other people, then fantastic, great. And I'm not taking anything away from that. It didn't work for me. That's all I can say. So I've got this browser tab open with UKNA on it. And I'm thinking like, what the hell is this? How did this get open? There was a link to a chat room. Now, I'm not into chat rooms. That wasn't my thing, still isn't my thing. So I wasn't really, it's not like I used to Google chat rooms and it'd come up, because I didn't. But I realised that an online meeting was about to start in about 2 minutes. So I was like, okay, let me go in and have a look and see what this is. So, you have to put a nickname in. So I put a nickname of Sooty and Sweep. And, I'm no longer anonymous. I put a nickname in and it was all a bit weird because they started, it wasn't a voice meeting, it was all done by, typing. So they started quoting passages from this book called The Basic Text. And it was all about addicts. What is an addict? What is addiction? Am I an addict? And I'm kind of looking at it going, oh, it's a bit hooky-kooky, isn't it? And I was looking at the other people that were in the room. And there was somebody in there whose nickname was Tabby Cat. So I thought, oh, I'm going to like this person, another cat lover. So I private messaged Tabby Cat in the middle of this meeting. And I started meowing, like typing meow, meow. And to my surprise, they meowed back. And then we started talking like proper English, like what I talks. And I said, like, what the hell is this place? I've no idea what I'm doing here. And they said, well, why don't you stick around? You might learn something. I learned that this was a 12-step program, much like Alcoholics Anonymous, based on those steps. Just a slight difference to some of the wording, that's all. So I read through the 12 steps, and I'm still chatting to Tabby Cat. And I said, how long have you been clean? And I think at that point it was about 19 years. And I'm like, fantastic, that is really good. I'm glad that it worked for you, but I can assure you that 12 sentences written on a piece of paper isn't going to work for me. And they said, yeah, it's funny because everyone who comes in here says that. And some leave and some don't, some stay. I got chatting to them, and there was also another person in there whose name I'm not going to give. So I'm going to call her Boo Boo Cat, okay? If she watches this video, she'll know who she is. So I'm chatting to Tabby Cat and Boo Boo Cat. We used to talk on the phone. We used to talk about lots of things. We didn't just talk about addiction. We talked about 80s music, because obviously the best era. And we talked about loads of stuff. And I got to know them. I got to know them pretty well. And I carried on going to these meetings. Still using, but carried on going to the meetings. Anyway, move forward to September. 21st of September, to be precise. It was a Friday. And I was on the phone. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning. I was on the phone to Tabby Cat. And we were just chatting. I think we were having a conversation about Kim Wilde and about how her music had changed from the early 80s going forward. Perhaps we could do a video about that. No, maybe not. So we were having this conversation, and it suddenly occurred to me, gosh, it's 10 o'clock. I don't know why I looked at the clock, because none of you can see my clock. I thought, gosh, it's 10 o'clock. Dad's going to be here soon, because I had to go to the chemist to get my Subutex and to pick up my weekend dose, because obviously the chemist is shut at weekends. So I said to Tabby Cat, I'm going to have to go because Dad's going to be on his way soon, because I need to go to the chemist. And he said, has it ever occurred to you that you don't have to? And I don't know why, how, or whatever, but in that micro millisecond, I went, yeah, do you know what? I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I'm finished. I'm not going. And I said, I'm going to ring off because I need to ring Dad and tell him not to come. So I put the phone down. I rang Dad. Now, if my dad had known that I was just not going to the chemist to get my medication, he would have stressed greatly over that. So I told him a lie, and I said, Dad, a friend of mine's coming up for coffee this morning, so she's going to take me out to the chemist, so you don't need to worry about coming. And in my true dad fashion, he went, all right, my love, if you're sure, because your old dad don't mind coming. And he's like, no, Dad, it's fine. I'll be okay. As I put the phone down to Dad, when people talk about being gripped by fear, I was gripped by fear. And I'm already thinking, what the hell have I just done? And I phoned Tabby Cat back and I said, I don't know what I've just done. And he said, well, you've just taken the first step towards recovery. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. So they said, look, do you have any Subutex there at the house? And I said, yeah. And they said, right, you need to go and get rid of that. And you need to do that now while you still feel okay. So I went into the bedroom. I went through every drawer, every pocket. I got rid of any drug paraphernalia. Then I went through my mobile phone and I deleted the numbers of every dealer that I had on there, all the numbers deleted. I blocked them first so they couldn't call me, and deleted them. I don't remember those first few days so well. I remember in the first week, I remember that it was really unpleasant. Really unpleasant. I felt so ill. Ill doesn't even come close to it. It felt like I was dying. The feelings, you kind of permanently feel like you've got the worst flu that you've ever had. Your whole body aches and you get hot and cold sweats. So sometimes it feels like it's every half hour, sometimes every hour, sometimes you might get a reprieve for a few hours, and it might be, you know, every few hours or a couple of hours, but this feeling kind of rises up, and it's like, I think it's adrenaline, because it used to feel like, you know, when you're at school and you've done something wrong, or it might only be me that used to do things wrong, but you're about to get told off by a teacher or by the headmistress or something, and that feeling of like dread and fear, and that it was awful, and I was getting it multiple times a day. And I do have a clear memory of going out into the kitchen to make a cup of tea and just sitting on the floor and crying because I couldn't even lift the kettle. I used to get these kind of like adrenaline surges and then slumps where I couldn't do anything. So this was the first week. The advice that was given to me by NA, and which is part of the program, is to go to a meeting every night. And in those early days, you're encouraged to focus everything into what they call not picking up. And that means don't go back and use drugs. So you do whatever you have to do. You go to a meeting, you phone another recovering addict, you maybe go online onto a chat room, you phone your sponsor, you do whatever you have to do, but you don't pick up drugs. So that's what I did. That's what I did. And I can honestly say that poor old Tabby Cat spent an awful lot of time on the phone. I asked them if they would be my sponsor, to which they said yes. And so sometimes those phone calls were during the day. There were a couple of times where they were very, very late at night, to the point where I think we both fell asleep on the phone one night. But yeah, I did whatever I had to do. Anyway, moving forward a week. So we're now at the following Friday. Every night when you go to a meeting, you get the opportunity to share. You get the opportunity to listen to other people. I'd been to a meeting this night, this Friday night, went to the meeting. And it was a great meeting, I remember that. And I remember sharing. And I remember saying, you know, how amazed I was that I'd reached 7 days clean. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. This was like no drugs, no Subutex, no nothing. Anyway, the meeting ended, and within the next hour, I'd gone from feeling really great to feeling really awful. The worst thing about coming off of those drugs in the early days of recovery was not the physical withdrawals. It was the obsession and the compulsion. So it was obsessing all the time. Every waking hour, I was thinking about drugs. And I was fighting that kind of compulsion to go and buy them. And I would find myself doing things without even consciously thinking it. So in my head, I'd be adding up how much money I had on me. Do I have enough to go and score? Where would I score from? I don't have any phone numbers. Oh, well, if I go down to that place, I know that people hang around. And then I'd be like, whoa, stop. You know, who said we were going out to score drugs? Stop. And it really was like I had no control over it at all. It was so hard. And that obsession went on for a few months, and it gradually lessened, and I gradually learned better ways of dealing with it, and my little toolkit grew and increased. And as I started to recover, because you're never cured, as it were, but you can live a life without drugs, and not just live a life without drugs, but one of the steps talks about restoring sanity. So you can have a very happy and balanced life with, you know, without all these. So this Friday night, so I'd quickly gone, blah, blah, blah. So out comes my little toolkit. Right, phone my sponsor. So I phoned Tabby Cat, no answer. Okay, phone another recovering addict. So I phoned Boo Boo Cat, no answer. Fantastic. Okay, let's go back on the chat room. No one in there. Great. So I went on to a different chat room, which was an American chat room. And obviously because of the time difference, quite often if it was the middle of the night, you could go into that chat room and you would find people in there, you know, that people I'd made contact with and made friends with, people I trusted, people I knew, you know, were in recovery and could give me some words of wisdom and some support and stuff, you know. So I went into the American chat room, no one in there. Great. So I went into my bedroom and I sat on the bed. I've been doing this a lot today. I think I do it out of habit because I'm sat on my bed and I'm holding a pillow like this. I'm rocking on the bed. I remember it like it was yesterday. This is a bit of the story where you're going to go, nah, that never happened. But I promise you it did. So I'm sat there and I'm going over steps 1 to 3. Step 1, we admitted that we were powerless over addiction and that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So this is what people refer to as the higher power. I chose to call my higher power God. That was a kind of identity that I vibed with, if you like, you know. Step 3, we made the decision to turn our lives and our wills over to the care of God as we understand him. So I'm sitting now, I'm going over steps 1 to 3, and I started talking to my higher power. And I'm still rocking, still holding the pillow. And I'm saying, God, please don't let me use. Please don't let me go and buy drugs. I don't want to go and buy drugs. Please don't let me buy drugs. And I had this fear, I guess fear is the right word, that I would kind of like wake up in a minute and I would find myself halfway to going out to score drugs. It was like I kind of thought that my feet and my legs were going to go off and do it without my brain actually telling them to do it. And I heard a voice. Now, I didn't hear it with my ears. I didn't hear it the same way that you hear this, or that I hear my own voice. I kind of heard it here. It's the only way I can explain it, but it was a voice. And this voice said, what do you need? And I remember I stopped rocking. I was doing this and I went, because I absolutely heard this voice. And I said, what do I need? And I said, I need a hug. And I kid you not, I promise you, I felt an arm go around me. I felt the sensation of an arm go around me and your hand here and just a squeeze. And then nothing. The next thing I knew, it was the next morning. And I'd kind of gone backwards like this on my bed. And so my feet were still on the floor, but I was lying on the bed. It was ever so uncomfortable. And I'd fallen asleep. I woke up the next morning, my first thought, and let me say this is the first day where my first thought hadn't been about drugs. My first thought was, I fell asleep in the arms of God last night. Because that's how it felt. And I realised when I looked back on that, and I've told that story lots of times to lots of people over the last nearly 13 years. And I realised every time I look back on it, I realised that what I got that night, that voice said, what do you need? I said I needed a hug. And maybe I did need a hug. But what I got was absolutely what I needed. And that was that I had that same sense of being safe, of security, of everything's okay. Everything is all right. And I had that same sense of being under the duvet with the custard creams and the torch and the book. That was an absolute, for me, that was an absolute turning point in my recovery. And I'm very grateful that it happened that early on, because after that day, I had complete faith in my higher power. Complete. I won't say that I never had shaky days. I did. I had lots of them. And I won't say that I never got upset by anything, because I did, and I do frequently. And were there days where I still thought about using? Yes. Do I get days now where I think about using? Occasionally. I see it as like a monkey on your shoulder who kind of like jumps on and goes, hey, not used any drugs for a long time. Go, imagine how good it would be now if you use them now because you've not used them for so long. You know, when you haven't had a drink for quite a long time, then you have like this much brandy and you're falling on the floor. You know, that's what it would be like. It would be like that. Oh, it'd be amazing. And it's like, yeah, amazing. And I'm kind of programmed now to do my 12-step program. So I instantly run through all the things in my life that I'm grateful for and all the things that I absolutely would not have if it were not for recovery. One thing that does stand out, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this properly, is that I shared this in a meeting one day, that I know I used to look in the mirror and I didn't know who I was. And I would often, it's almost like, of course, I would look in the mirror and go, yeah, that's me. I'm wearing a grey t-shirt. Because I have eyes. But I would kind of look in the mirror and go, no, don't know. Just a person wearing a grey t-shirt who's fat. I just had no idea who I was. Whereas now, I can't explain it any other way. Just, I guess, maybe a sense of identity. I don't know. I don't know what the words are to describe it. But I know that as I work through the 12-step program, so I talked about steps 1 to 3, and as I work through the other steps of the program, maybe I will do more videos about that. So many issues from the past were dealt with and were resolved. Now, I'm not knocking medication. I'm not knocking therapy, counselling. I'm not knocking any of that because I'm a firm believer that, you know, you have to do what works for you. And if it works for you, brilliant. You know, you go do it. It just never worked for me. That 12-step program did. The main thing is that I've now been clean for 13 years. Oh, nearly 13 years. It'll be 13 years in September. And my life has transformed. Going back to why I started the YouTube channel, this is one of the things that I wanted to do some videos about, because I don't think I have all the answers to things. I definitely don't have all the answers. I don't even know what half the questions are, never mind have all the answers. But I have learned some things. I think it's become more apparent to me in recent years because so many of my friends suffer with and deal with mental health issues. Often I find myself repeating things to them that I learned in the 12-step program. So that's the kind of thing that I wanted to talk about, just some of the things I've learned. Because how did I learn them? I learned them through hearing other people talking about their experiences. The fact that I am a recovering addict, I was going to say it's not something that I take pride in, but actually I suppose it is really. I find a lot of gratitude and a lot of happiness in it. I'm not proud of the fact that I use drugs. I'm not proud of some of the things that I did, and some of the ways in which I treated people. But I am happy and I'm grateful that I was able to make amends where I could, and that I was able to get clean and to recover. This is what sanity looks like, by the way. Be able to recover some sort of sanity. When I was struggling at Christmas time, I said, if this is my life, I don't want it. I do love my life, and I love my life today. I don't think I loved my life then because I was in a lot of pain and because I was also not seeing a lot of hope. I was feeling quite a lot of despair regarding weight loss and all the stuff that I've already spoken about. But I think I'm more positive now, and I definitely have hope. And I know that I'm taking positive action, and that's so important. you know, to act on something. Like, don't just sit here and say, well, I could do this, I'm going to do that. Go do it. Go and do it. And I am taking that positive action. I think that's what, so I'm playing with a bit of paper in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Stop playing with paper. I do love my life. I'm grateful for everybody in it. I'm grateful for you guys that watch my videos. I'm grateful for my family, for my friends, for my husband, for my 2 cats. And no, husband, you didn't come last in that list. You come top of my list. More than anything, I'm grateful for Boo Boo Cat and Tabby Cat, because without that person giving so much of themselves and so much of their time, I don't think I would be here now. And I certainly wouldn't be telling this story. So yeah, it's made a huge difference. I'm gonna wrap this video up because it's gone on for way too long, and because I think I might have a hungry little cat there who wants his lunch. I am gonna do another video. I'll tell you a little bit about the cats. We'll do a cat video. If you ever want to ask me anything about the 12-step program, about NA, about addiction or whatever, I'm really open to talking about it. I don't like to dwell on the kind of addiction side because I don't want to glorify it, you know. It happened, it was a period of time and it happened, it was part of my life. I don't hide it, but I'm certainly not going to sit and glorify it because it doesn't deserve that. And I much rather focus on recovery. But however, you know, obviously as part of my program, part of the 12 steps is to carry the message to other addicts. So it's not something I've ever shied away from talking about, and I'm absolutely happy to have private conversations or public ones, you know, with people about it, because otherwise how do people know that the program exists? And you may not need it, but you may meet somebody, or there may be someone in your life who needs it, you know. So I'm really, really happy to do that. You just need to send me a message. My Instagram, I believe I have now finally managed to get my Instagram link in my bio of the channel. So yeah, just click there, send me a message on Instagram. May not see it straight away because I'm old, and so I'm still figuring out how Instagram works. But yeah, send me a message. I'm quite happy to talk about it. Guys, thank you for watching my video. If you made it to the end, well done. Well done. You get free coffee in a cat mug. I will see you in the next video. Have a great day, everybody, and sending you lots of love, and I'll see you in the next video. Meow, meow.